Hello and welcome back to the channel. Okay, thought I'd do a video regarding the PS5 internal slash external SSD that's just released. I wanted to cover some points on it. And just to clarify what this idiot on Twitter seems to believe. Consoles exist just as a different option to PC. There's nothing wrong with a console giving you the option to open it up and screw in the SSD. Ooh, scary. What he's trying to say is he's trying to give the impression that Xbox games don't like the SSD going into the being screwed into the PS5 because they don't know how to use a screwdriver. So before we get into this, I'd just like to say that I only come into this range of console gaming in 2009 with a 360. Before that, I was a PC gamer for the majority of my life. I've also went to college and done board level PC repairs and fixes, going out to houses to repair people's PCs and stuff like that. I've been gaming since 1978, I believe, and I was on I can't remember the consoles, on the Monotone or something it was called. And I've been gaming since. So started off on the consoles like the Atari and stuff. Went to the Spectrums, went to PCs, your Amstrads and stuff like that, and then stayed with PC ever since. Built my own PC, and then PC gamed up until 2009. I'm also an engineer now, so the argument that you're scared of a screwdriver is the most stupid, ignorant statement to ever make to anyone. Nobody's scared of a screwdriver. The red flags that this fella's missing and trying to deflect from is what I'll go into in this video. I will also be touching on other SSDs you can get for the PS5 because there are several out there at the moment. The pros and cons, but also to ignore stuff like this because you're going to get a lot of devs and stuff coming out with stuff like this, which is very misleading, and I wouldn't take I'll take it all with a pinch of salt. It's not a big game changer, as I will show in this video. So firstly, the positives, and to be honest, there isn't many. Other than it exists, and although it took a while to come out, it does exist. That's pretty much all the positive there is, that PS5 has an SSD, an extra SSD you can plug into their already limited internal SSD, but pretty much all the positives end there. Sure, you can say things like the cost of it and the size of them and stuff like that compared to Xbox is a positive, but then you're comparing it to the Xbox, and that's what we're doing here. We're simply talking about the SSD in the PS5, and who's this really aimed at? Who's the target audience? Firstly, you have to install the SSD yourself into your console. So you have to open it up and put it inside. So it's not really aimed at sort of the younger demographic, is it? Because you're not going to see little Timmy, 8-year-old, owning a PS5 and doing this. Or you wouldn't like him to, would you? Especially if he has to install a heatsink. The concern is it's aimed for a certain demographic of people, because General Joe on the street, all these Fortnite players and stuff like that, a lot of them play on PS4 and Minecraft and stuff, are not about to install this SSD off the bat. Sorry, meant PS5, not PS4. And in addition, you've got the problem that Sony have already declared that any issues with installing the SSD, they won't be held liable to it. So if you do break your machine in the process of opening it up and installing this incorrectly, if it does break your machine or anything that comes from this, Sony have washed their hands of it already. So any problems you have, they will not replace your console or not fix the console. That will be down to you, and that will cost you another £500, I'd imagine, or $500 to have it fixed just to install their SSD. Which is a massive red flag that they've actually come out and said, yeah, we're not liable. Please buy this SSD, install it, yada yada yada. Oh, we're not reliable though if it breaks your machine. That's a bit of a worry, a bit of a concern, which would raise a major red flag, which would mean I would not buy this SSD. I'd hold out for something else. So let's get more into the nitty gritty. And the nitty gritty is it also may need a heatsink. Yes, they've already said that the SSD may overheat. So you might have to install a heatsink, which, as I said earlier, who's this aimed at? What demographic of people? But as this fella says, it notes my main concern. Having built a gaming PC from scratch, I'm certainly not afraid of a few screws, because nobody is, let's be honest. No, it is this disturbing revelation that the firmware coming that unlocks the PS5's ability to run the extra internal drive will also allow the higher cooling fan speeds. This might not come as a surprise to those who are already up to date with NVMe's SSDs. Unlike regular hard drives, this way he's written it, they can often get extremely hot. This is the reason why so many models come with their own heatsink, which can be placed on top and to help maintain peak performance. The PS5, it seems, might struggle to accommodate a drive that comes with a heatsink, and as the SSD found inside the console is extreme, not fast, you can bet that the drive that you may buy will become quite burnt out when using it. The SSD bay includes a cover that could effectively serve as a heatsink, but Sony's capability list will obviously determine which RIMs will work with the PS5. So what this basically this fella's saying, weirdly, the way he's typed it anyway, is basically you need to install a heatsink possibly for the SSD, depending on one you get, and there just isn't the space for the heatsink to fit into, depending on what depending on what SSD you get. You could get an SSD and the heatsink will not fit with it inside the case. And then there's still no guarantee that it will keep the system cooled. So that raises other red flags. And remember, there are people reporting that the SSD is bricking their console, and as I said, Sony will not reimburse you if it does brick your console. So is it worth the risk? But as I said, there are other models on the shop front. Let me show these. As you can see, Amazon are doing a huge array of the PS5 SSDs, ranging from what we got there, ranging from 1 terabyte right up to 4 terabytes. But look at the price range is staggering. 4 terabytes is £1,000, is £1,000, $1,000 I should say, or just under £800 in the UK. So quite expensive, but once again, they all still run this same risk, and you still might need to buy an SSD on top of those prices. And then, as I said, it could brick your machine, and Sony are not liable, so it's up to you to get that sorted yourself. The other thing I want to just touch on, which is weird, which is what Sony and everyone was pushing for quite some time, which these guys have highlighted. Now, they've installed a new SSD, their own SSD into the PS5, and they found even if they choose the slowest speed SSD installed into the PS5, it doesn't run much slower than the internal SSD already in the PS5. Bear in mind, you've been told it's the fastest SSD on the planet, yada yada yada, and it's custom made or custom adjusted or whatever the magic sauce they poured on it. Even the slowest SSD isn't showing much of a difference from the internal SSD already in the PS5, which is quite a concern, really, I'd say, because you've been promised that this SSD is next best thing. It's a magical sauce. So let's just clarify what this fella said. If your PS5 is already running out of speedy solid-state storage, there's a fix on the way. Sony's new beta update for the PS5 allows you to expand your paltry 667GB of usage space by popping in the same sort of M2 SSD stick you might slip into your laptop or desktop PC. My colleague Mitchell, yada yada, that meets all the Sony's recommendations such as speeds. Yep. That's why we tracked down an adapter, our XPG Gaming S50 Lite, one of the slowest compatible PCI's Gen 4 drives we could find, and stuck it into the PS5 along with another drive. So let's see what their results are. So at this stage I'm sort of worried and confused. Are they comparing it to the actual internal drive of the PS5, or the internal drive that you can install, which PS5 and Sony are recommending, which we've shown, and they're comparing just regular drives, those drives, telling you not to buy those drives because regular drives are working just as good. I'm confused by the whole thing, but in either case, it just shows those drives are just not worth the hassle, really. So let's get into this. We compared the S50 Lite against both the PS5's internal SSD and the 5000 MB's Sambrent Rocket 500GB in a battery of tests, including load times for games like early PS5 showcases Ratchet & Clank, Rift Apart and Spider-Man Miles Morales. We also measured how long it takes to back up games to each kind of drive, throwing in a Seagate external HDD for comparison. So if you compare it against just a regular HDD from an additional hard drive. The verdict, surprisingly, even the slowest compatible SSD we could find had near identical load times to the one Sony includes in the box. I think they are actually comparing it to the PS5 internal drive you get in the box. Sometimes it's a second slower, sometimes a second or two faster, but basically it's a total wash. Hopping through dimensions in Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, I saw no appreciable difference with the slowest SSD in gameplay either. Stepping through pocket dimensions with instantaneous, and when there was a slight pause during the boss fight, I saw the same pause on the internal SSD as well. And here is a breakdown of those times for you to feast your eyes on. So we've got Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, the internal SSD, 14 seconds. The Sambran, it's also 14 seconds. XPG is 15 seconds. Returnal, 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 31. Spider-Man Miles Morales, 19. Actually faster on the Sambran, Rocket and the XPG. Final Fantasy Remake, it's the same across the board. PS4 and PS5. Yakuza Like a Dragon. Yakuza Like a Dragon, the internal SSD on PS5 is faster. So you can see the times there. It is a sort of a... I don't know where you take it. You've got it there in front of you. I don't know how you take that. Let me know what you think. Let's move on to the next point. So the fella concludes, I also didn't necessarily see a huge difference between the drives when it comes to transferring games back and forth. But there was one big surprise, at least in this beta. It appears that Sony may be throtting the right speed of the PS5's internal drive. It took only 2.26 to send both PS5 and PS4 copies of Final Fantasy Remake to the Sambran SSD, for instance, but 12.4 seconds to go back to the PS5, over 5 times longer. On average, I saw write speeds of around transferring my test games to either of my add-in. Right, so he goes into just check the jargon there, but he basically got it there. He's not seeing much difference really between the load times, possibly. So my conclusion to all this is, I would say I would hold out for Sony, because with all the red flags, there's just far too many red flags and far too many concerns. Especially the main concern is that Sony will not support any problems or issues you are having with these new internal SSDs you're plugging in, slash externals. I'm not sure what you call them, to be honest. I suppose they're internal because you're internally installing them. So I would suggest waiting out for an official PlayStation 5 external / internal SSD, which hopefully will not require a heatsink. That is my recommendation. Buying one of these, I think, it's entirely up to you. At the end of the day, it's an option, but a precarious one. I would not put much faith in it, to be honest. And why Mark Cerny, the genius, the god, was incapable of making a plug-and-play external drive like the Xbox has is beyond me, considering he's a genius and a god. You'd think that would just be a given, really. And PS5 has got a history of having these problems with their external drives. They had the same with the PS4, and I believe PS3, I don't think, had one. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know. I like to debate. I like to hear your thoughts on it all. Do you own a PS5? No, you're going to get a PS5, the new PS5 storage. Do you have any concerns about it? Please sub and share. Please like this and post it on Twitter. Post it anywhere. Share it with your friends. I think it's very important. People need to know these things before they buy these things, and don't just jump in feet first into this stuff because someone told you to, or because it's Sony. You need to look into this stuff before you buy it, because at the end of the day, it's going to cost you. If it does go wrong, it's going to be only on you. It's going to cost you £500, not Sony. They will not care. But thank you all for watching, and goodbye for now.